Welcome to Asia Outlook. I'm Melody and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. 7 people were killed after gunmen stormed into the stock exchange in Pakistan's southern city of Karachi. The separatist Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for the attack. The group has hit a string of high-profile targets across Pakistan in recent years. CGTN Daniel Khan has more.
The attackers, armed with grenades and automatic rifles, launched the attack as they attempted to enter the Pakistan Stock Exchange compound. The building is located in a high-security zone that houses the head offices of several banks. Police and paramilitary personnel arrived at the scene soon after the attack and killed all 4 attackers. A clearance operation was held later. Authorities say the attack had links with foreign agencies.
As the investigation gets underway, we will trace the links and inform the public straight away. I can tell you that this terrorist attack could not have been possible without the help of a hostile intelligence agency.
Police said that advanced weaponry, hand grenades and explosive material was recovered from the terrorists' custody. Food supplies were found on the bodies of the gunmen, indicating they may have planned a long siege.
The law enforcement agencies, the police and the rangers played a very vital role in combating this attack. And Alhamdulillah, the stock exchange, the financial hub of the Pakistan was saved.
The Baloch Liberation Army, or the BLA, took responsibility for the attack. The militant group has launched several attacks in Pakistan. In 2018, its members tried to storm the Chinese consulate in Karachi, killing at least 4 people. And in 2019, the group attacked a 5-star hotel in the port city of Gwadar in Balochistan. It was labeled as an attack against the multi-billion-dollar China-Pakistan economic corridor. Violence in Pakistan has been lowered significantly in the last few years, owing to the targeted operations against militant outfits, especially the Taliban and its splinter groups. But experts say the threat is far from over. They say Pakistani security agencies will have to step up their efforts to eliminate any remaining terrorist threat from its soil once and for all. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Islamabad.
Meanwhile, China is warning the UK against a move to grant possible citizenship to millions of Hong Kong residents. China's embassy in Britain said the move could violate international law and undermine the China-UK relationship. The British Prime Minister has made the offer in response to the new national security law for Hong Kong. He says the legislation is in breach of the agreement that returned Hong Kong to China. The issues involve Hong Kong people who hold British national overseas passports as well as their dependents. London says it will allow them to come to Britain and seek citizenship after a 6-year period. Beijing says it closely following the developments after Chinese researchers found a new type of swine flu that can trigger a pandemic. The study was published in the peer-reviewed U.S. science journal PNAS. How concerned should we be? CGTN talked with Shen Shi, an associate professor of health policy and economics at the Yale School of Public Health and president of the China Health Policy and Management Society.
So far, this is PNAS study is a small sample study. It may not represent the whole nation, so it's important to reach conclusion after a stronger national surveillance of pigs. As we know, there are more than 500 million pigs in China. So far, from the publication, it shows that there's no immediate threat, but this situation needs to be monitored very closely because we know that influenza virus frequently jump from pigs to humans, but most of them do not transmit between humans. But influenza could surprise us, especially during this very difficult time of COVID-19, because they have very similar symptoms. and there's a risk that we neglect this influenza and other threats. And according to this publication, the gene variant of this swine flu, it includes the genes from the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, which occurred and hit very hard the United States and Mexico and many other countries. This type of variant could promote the virus adaptation, which may lead to human-to-human transmission. So no one knows until, at this moment how and whether it may jump from pigs to humans. So we need to have a clear and close national surveillance about this potential threat.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry has urged India not to take actions that could escalate tensions. The comments come after India imposed restrictions on some Chinese companies and mobile apps after a border clash.
China hopes that India will work with us, faithfully follow the important consensus reached between the two countries' leaders, abide by the agreements reached between the two governments, strengthen communication and coordination on properly managing the current situation through diplomatic and military channels, and jointly uphold peace and stability in the border areas.
The Foreign Ministry spokesperson said practical cooperation between China and India is good for both sides. He said India's recent restriction on Chinese companies violate WTO rules and will harm India's interests. Now he said China will take necessary measures to protect the rights of Chinese businesses in India. The Central Election Commission on Thursday said Russians have overwhelmingly backed constitutional reforms that will allow President Vladimir Putin to potentially extend his rule to 2036. With all votes counted, the CEC said that 77% of voters had backed the reforms, with turnout of about 65%. Just over 21% had voted against them. CGTN Julia Chapman has more from Moscow.
This is a vote to take the temperature of the nation. Russians have been asked what kind of future they want for their country. A broad package of changes to the constitution was put to voters, affecting everything from pensions to borders, from marriage to the structure of government. It also paved the way for Vladimir Putin, who was elected in 2000, to stay in power until 2036.
I've been alive a long time. I've seen many leaders. We've never lived the way we're living now.
I support the amendments, especially the one about Russia's territorial integrity. I think that's the most important one.
For me, the most important amendment is the one about independence from the outside. I mean independence from European laws and all others.
The vote was postponed from April because of coronavirus. Russia continues to record thousands of new COVID-19 cases every day. To minimize the risk of infection, the vote has been held over the course of a week. In 2 cities, including Moscow, residents could even vote online. And to further encourage turnout, July 1st was declared a public holiday.
Holding a plebiscite in a pandemic presented huge challenges, but the vote was deemed too important to delay again. Election monitors have raised concerns about the methods, but giving the vote legitimacy was a priority for Vladimir Putin.
Polls have suggested falling trust in the president over the coronavirus outbreak, but the majority of Russians still support the man they see as a symbol of stability.
Putin is unparalleled in Russia, much more popular, much more trusted and approved than any other member of the political establishment in Russia. With all other institutions of power being emasculated, Putin, as it were, is politics, to the extent that politics is about reconciling different interests.
Even those who would prefer another leader have widely backed the constitutional changes. They had no option to pick and choose, only to reject or accept them all. The constitutional changes envision the future of Russia, a more socially conservative society with a bigger welfare state, one that puts its own laws and narratives above all others, and could be led by one man for many years to come. Julia Chapman, CGTN, Moscow.
China's State Council has appointed Eric Chen Kwok-ki as Secretary General of Hong Kong's new Committee for Safeguarding National Security. He was nominated by Chief Executive Carrie Lam in accordance with the national security law for Hong Kong. During COVID, it is important to take care of yourself and others around you. Here are some tips to make sure you are following the guidelines instructed by the WHO.
Most people who get infected by the coronavirus will experience mild illness and recover, but it can be more severe for others with underlying conditions. Here's what you need to do to take care of your health and protect others according to WHO. 1. Wash your hands frequently. Clean your hands regularly and thoroughly with an alcohol-based hand sanitizer or wash them with soap and water. Why? Because washing your hands with soap and water or sanitizing them with an alcohol-based disinfectant kills viruses that may be on your hands. 2. Maintain social distancing. Maintain at least 1 meter distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Why? Because when someone coughs or sneezes, they release droplets of saliva and mucus from their nose and mouth, which may contain viruses. If you are too close, you can breathe in some of those droplets and possibly the COVID-19 virus. 3. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Why? Because hands touch many surfaces can pick up viruses. Once contaminated, hands can transfer the virus to your eyes, nose, or mouth. And from there, the virus can enter your body and can make you sick. 4. Practice respiratory hygiene. Make sure you and the people around you follow good respiratory hygiene. This means covering your mouth and nose with your bent elbow or a paper tissue while coughing or sneezing, and disposing the used napkins immediately. Why? Because droplets spread viruses. By practicing good respiratory hygiene, you protect the people around you from viruses such as cold, flu, and COVID-19. 5. Seek medical care if experiencing fever, cough, and heavy breathing. Stay home if you feel unwell. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, urgently contact local health authorities. Follow their directions in seeking medical care. Why? Because contacting health authorities will ensure quick medical guidance at the right healthcare facility. This will also protect you and help prevent spread of viruses and other infections.
Stay with us as we bring you more news on Asia Outlook. World Health Organization chief said at a virtual press conference on Monday, 6 months since the coronavirus pandemic, and it is not even close to being over.
With 10 million cases now and 500,000 deaths, unless we address the problems we have already identified as WHO, the lack of national unity and lack of global solidarity, and the divided world, which is actually helping the virus to spread. As I said in my speech, the worst is yet to come. I'm sorry to say that, but with this kind of environment and condition, we fear the worst. We can fight the virus better when we know everything about the virus, including how it started. We will be sending a team next week to China to prepare for that, and we hope that that will lead into understanding how the virus started and what we can do for the future to prepare.
Outrage over the death of a father-son duo in police custody in India's southern Tamil Nadu state worsened last week. Reports say the two detained for flouting coronavirus lockdown rules died after a brutal thrashing by police. The state's chief minister has vowed to probe into the case.
தூத்துக்குடி மாவட்டம் சாத்தான்குளத்தில் The government of Tamil Nadu has decided that the Central Bureau of Investigation should intervene in the case. While the case hearing is in Madurai bench of Madras High Court, the government will inform of this decision and get permission from the court for the case to be handed over to the CBI.
Bars and pubs open across Thailand on Wednesday for the first time since the coronavirus lockdown began in the country in mid-March. Bars are meant to observe social distancing with a meter between customers and 4 square meters of space per person, as well as tables required to be 2 meters apart. Adherence to the rules appear lax on Wednesday, but the military supreme commander designated by the Prime Minister to inspect establishments seemed satisfied that all was in order. Chinese President Xi Jinping underlined the importance of reforms in tackling problems and opening up new prospects, while chairing the 14th meeting of the Central Committee for Deepening Overall Reform on Tuesday. During the meeting, participating officials passed reform guidelines in various areas, including IT, education, and healthcare. President Xi also stressed the significance of structural reforms and state-owned enterprises and improving yet competitiveness. Singapore has decided to hold a general election next month as the number of COVID-19 cases falls. But amid the pandemic, there will be challenges for both voters and political parties. CGTN Miro Liu has the full report from Singapore.
Come July 10th, over 2.6 million voters will go to polls in Singapore in what is being called a watershed election for the island nation. Explaining his decision to hold elections during a pandemic, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said that a fresh mandate would allow the government to decisively respond to the outbreak and its impact.
We need a capable government with a strong backing of the people to do all that needs to be done on your behalf and see us through these tumultuous times. An election now, when things are relatively stable, will clear the decks and give the new government a fresh, full 5-year mandate.
Unlike the previous elections, Singapore will miss its mega political rallies due to the COVID-19 safe distancing measures. Their voter meet and greet sessions or walkabouts would also be limited. Instead, parties will take the hustings onto the airwaves. They will need to leverage online tools, social media, and airtime on national free-to-air TV channels to attract voters.
The opposition parties are obviously not delighted, with there being no fiscal rallies for this general election. They will continue to have to walk the ground. They probably will have to exercise greater caution, which means that the number of households they could cover a day, would be lower. In terms of the online campaigning, because you will have many online rallies going on at the same time. And that means, the importance of not just attracting voters to go to your online rally site, but to remain there. That's very challenging for the opposition parties.
There are also concerns that Singaporeans might prefer to go with the incumbent that has already dealt with the COVID-19 crisis.
Voters will have to navigate this very, in a way, demanding elections for them. On the one hand, recognizing the importance of a tried and tested government, at the same time, keeping the government on its toes and taking the view whether a strong opposition presence, could in fact get the government to do even better.
Meanwhile, in terms of voter safety, the Elections Department has issued a slew of measures for polling day. Voters will be required to wear masks, gloves, and maintain 1 meter safe distancing at all times. They will also have their temperature taken, and those with respiratory symptoms or fever will be refused entry. To reduce the number of voters at each location, polling booths will be increased from 880 to 1,100. The jury is still out on whether the people will overwhelmingly back the ruling PAP or put a strong opposition in parliament. But it will definitely be one of the most keenly contested and watched elections in the city-state. Miro Lu, CGTN, Singapore.
Drones are being deployed in India to try and control a crop-destroying pest. Control teams are using drones to spray insecticides on swarms of locusts. Authorities are warning of the harm the locusts will do if they are not controlled. Teams were recently seen using the drones in Agra city, home of the Taj Mahal. They are seeing some success in their efforts to curb the spread. Let's take a look.
जिसमें कि अभी 60% टिड्डियों को मार गिराया गया और यहाँ पर 4 ड्रोन भारत सरकार की तरफ से प्रयोग में लाए गए जिसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा मृत्यु दर पाई गई।
Parents living away from home for extended periods of time should contact their children at least once a month and stay informed on their lives and general well-being. That's according to a new draft revision on a law to protect minors that's been submitted to China's top legislature for a second reading. Supporters say it aims to improve the welfare of those left behind.
Children are meant to grow up with the warmth of a parent's embrace. But for some, childhood can be a lonely period, as their parents leave for cities in search of higher-paying jobs. This is typical in China's rural areas, but measures have been taken to protect these children. They now have access to education, healthcare, and other social services. The government is also trying to make sure they receive enough attention and emotional support. Many platforms have been set up to cultivate their hobbies, talent, and passion. The organization Blue Letter is one of them. Starting some 12 years ago, the platform sends out 200,000 letters a year. The aim is to create a welcoming space for the children to express themselves.
We're not teaching these children how to behave. All they need is some company. The volunteers talk to them on an equal basis, and the quality of empathy is also quite important in a volunteer. More importantly, these children tend to imitate, so if you'd like to share your life and experiences with them, they are more likely to open their worlds to you.
But even with help, many of these children struggle, like 12-year-old Tao Liyuan.
I miss my parents so much. They haven't been home in a very long time. There are so many things I can't express over the phone. I want to tell them in person.
The Chinese government has upped its efforts to reunite families by persuading some parents to head home and live with their children. It's come up with policies that allocate jobs to parents when they return. This means creating new positions in agriculture and industry. With the promise of employment, some migrant workers have decided to abandon higher-paying jobs in the city in exchange for more time with their kids.
I earned less working nearby, and my son is too young, so I don't want to be too far away from him. He needs care.
But she says she's still satisfied because waking up to her child's warm smile means much more to her than any high-paying job. Zheng Chunying, CGTN.
Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the United States. As their numbers grow, so does their voice in U.S. politics. On Saturday last week, the advocacy group Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote hosted a town hall with Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and a Republican surrogate to get their views on some of the group's most pressing issues. CGTN Karina Huber has more.
Democratic vice presidential candidate Joe Biden and a surrogate for President Donald Trump's re-election campaign addressed the concerns of members of the Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote, or APIA, in a virtual town hall. It's a nonpartisan organization that encourages its members to get politically involved. One of the first questions was about immigration.
On day one, I'm going to send a legislative immigration reform bill to Congress to provide a roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants who contribute so much to this country, including 1.7 million AAPI.
Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the U.S. More than 11 million of them will be eligible to vote in the 2020 election. That's roughly 5% of the total electorate.
According to a poll conducted by the organizers of the town hall, two issues are tops of mind for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. They are health care and the economy, with the majority believing Democrats have the edge on health care and Republicans lead on the economy.
Trump's surrogate, Eddie Baza Calvo, the former governor of U.S. territory Guam, praised the president's record on the economy.
Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have gone too long as the forgotten ones. Well, President Trump changed that. And in President Trump's first term, pre-COVID-19 Asian Pacific American entrepreneurship and jobs had grown. Unemployment had dropped to record lows.
The town hall came at a difficult time for many Asian Americans.
Coronavirus has incited intense anti-Asian xenophobia and hate crimes over the past few months that have threatened the safety of our community.
I could give you many names.
President Trump recently used language offensive to many when describing the coronavirus, calling it the Kung flu, and stoking fears of yet more harassment of Asian Americans.
Just look at how the AAPI community and so many others across this nation have responded to Trump's racist attacks during the pandemic. By stepping up, doctors, nurses, researchers, frontline healthcare workers, they're showing the best of America every single day.
The hope with the town hall is to help more Asian Americans find their voice and speak up come Election Day. Karina Huber, CGTN, New York.
There are more news coming on Asia Alex, so make sure you stick around. The ex-boyfriend of late K-pop star Go Hara was jailed by an appeal court on Thursday for blackmailing her over sex videos that played a part in her apparent suicide. In 2018, Go Hara, a member of a former girl group, Kara, told local media that her ex had threatened to end her entertainment career by leaking their sex videos. A CCTV clip of the couple showed the singer kneeling before him, seemingly begging him not to do it. Go Hara was found dead at her home in November and is widely believed to have taken her own life after being targeted by abusive online comments following the reports about the videos. The man hairdresser Choi Jong-bum was convicted of multiple crimes last year, including blackmail and inflicting injuries, and was given a suspended jail term. Both he and the prosecution appealed. However, on Thursday, the Seoul Central District Court ordered a heavier sentence, jailing him for a year. According to the Far East News Agency, Iran has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. President Donald Trump and 35 others over the killing of top general Qasem Soleimani and has asked Interpol for help. Tehran prosecutor Ali Al-Kashimir on Monday said the United States killed Soleimani, leader of the Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force, with a drone strike in Iraq on January 3rd. Washington accused Soleimani of masterminding attacks by Iranian-aligned militias on U.S. forces in the region. He said the warrants had been issued on charges of murder and terrorist action. He said Iran had asked Interpol to issue a red notice for President Trump and other individuals the Islamic Republic accuses of taking part in the killing of Soleimani. Al-Qasas said the group included other U.S. military and civilian officials, but did not provide further details. He said Iran would continue to pursue the matter after President Trump's time in office ends. And that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back next week. Until next time.